Viewers like you make this program possible. Support your local PBS station.
Jolly time, as you can hear. All of our wines are being provided this evening by Warren Winiarski of the Stag's Leap Wine Cellars in Napa Valley. And we have a marvelous visiting chef, Louis Evans Jr. from the Pontchartrain Hotel in New Orleans. And our guests are munching on little tiny buckwheat pancakes, little blinis, and rather than being covered with caviar, which is getting rather old hat nowadays, this has a delicious sour cream with chopped chives and green onions. And while everyone's doing that and drinking Warren's delicious Riesling, come on out in the kitchen. I want to show you what's going on. Look what we have here. This is a stuffed braised bottom round of beef waiting to be sliced and served. And with it, we're serving wild chanterelles. I went out yesterday with Chef Michael Hutchins, and we gathered them. He's a passionate mushroom hunter. Gosh, Michael, this road is terrible.
Well, it was all right about a month ago, but I think we'll make it.
But this looks like a lake in here. Somebody else has gotten stuck up there. I can see.
Yeah, let's. Oh, we'll get through with this Jeep. This Jeep will go over anything, Julia.
Oh gosh. Oh,
here.
boy.
Well, it's getting a little mucky.
Oh boy. Oh.
Well.
Heavens, look at all that. We're never going to get out of here. Now what?
Oh, I'm afraid we have to walk.
In all this mud. Well, I wonder if we really need chanterelles, Michael.
Julia, they're worth it.
Okay. Is it far?
It's not too far. It's just around the bend and over a little creek.
Okay.
Plenty of mushrooms in this.
Look at this, the Mississippi River.
Oh, it's not the Mississippi, Julia. It's just a little creek. Here, let's just give me your basket.
Grief.
And I'll give you a hand over.
Oh. I hope it's going to be worth it, Michael.
It'll be worth it.
Now, these chanterelles, what kind of conditions are we likely to find them in?
Well, Julia, they like these live oak trees. They like to be down in the mulch where there's a lot of organic material for them to draw nutrients.
We just keep our eyes peeled, I guess.
You do have to watch out for the poison oak.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
oh, look it. Look it, under the tree there.
Oh,
Look
yes,
at that.
yes.
Is that a chanterelle?
I think it is. Let's have a look.
Oh, boy. Look at that.
Oh, yes, it is. It's a lovely specimen.
Oh, boy, look at it.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Brush it off a little bit.
Isn't that? Well, that looks like a beautiful one. Oh, well, I'll just put that in my basket.
Oh, that's a good start. That's a small one. Maybe we'll have a little better luck further up the hill.
Oh, it's such fun going out catching things. I hope we're going to get a lot.
I consider it my recreation.
Oh, look around.
Look through here.
Hey, there's one. There's one right here.
Be careful. Watch. That's poison oak there, Julie. You better let me get that one.
Poison
this
oak?
is poison oak right here. See the three leaves? It looks like an oak.
Oh.
I'm just going to bend that out of the way. And we have a lovely one right down here.
Well, that's a beauty, isn't it?
Little button. That's the best kind to get.
Are they the sweetest and best from the...
They're very firm.
You really can tell, because that really shows itself as a chanterelle, doesn't it?
Yes, the folded gills is one of the keys on this.
You know, that's beautiful.
Yes, that's prime.
Well,
that's
let's
prime
go and
specimen.
get lots more. Well, I'll put that in my basket,
Fine.
too. Okay. God, it's so beautiful, all these yellow buttercups.
Well, the buttercups are not what we want, Julia. We want underneath the oak trees where we have the mulch.
But it's what season are chanterelles.
They like the wet season.
Oh, springtime.
Spring and a little bit in the fall.
There's?
Oh, yes.
There's some.
Lovely.
There's some more.
Yeah, well, let's add those to the collection.
Okay.
Here.
I think, you know, with these three, I think we're going to really have enough for my beef.
Well, that's good. There's one thing we should do, Julia.
Okay.
I always do it before I leave a site. You pick a mushroom. Let's pick this big one because it'll do the job. Smash it up and just throw it about.
Oh, why do you do that?
Well, that's kind of for the mushroom gods, so the next year when we come here, we're assured of a plentiful harvest.
Throw them in every place.
That's right.
The buttercup. No.
Now
We're going to get out of here, Michael.
I think with great difficulty.
You can imagine how long it took us to get out of that sea of mud we were in, but it was worth it. Look at this beautiful basket of chanterelles. I want to show you how to deal with them. And naturally, because it was wet, we have lots of dirt on them, and so take a little brush and brush off as much loose dirt as you can. And then you do not want to soak them because they just take up water like a sponge, so trim off the bottom. Then I'm going to brush and wash them under running water, trying to get off as much as possible, but not soaking them. Ideal weather would have been rain, and then about 2 days later there would be wonderful chanterelles that would be non-muddy. Just scrape some of that off. But this way I think you get about as little water, extra water as possible in them. And then dry them off, and you can do all of this ahead of time and let them sit and dry. But then just before you're going to cook them, you want to cut them, and you want to cut them so that you can still recognize that they are chanterelles. You see you've got those gills underneath. So cut along the gill so that anyone seeing them would say, oh, chanterelles. So those now are ready to saute. And I've got some already sauteing here. And I'm sauteing them in oil and butter. And then after you've started them, you notice that a lot of liquid comes out. It'll take 5 or 6 minutes for that to boil down and reduce. If you're wondering where all that liquid went, some of it evaporated and the rest of it was absorbed into the mushrooms. And now they're sauteing in their own oil and butter, so it's time to flavor them. And I'm going to put in a little handful of shallots. That's a little chopped garlic. And we don't have any salt in yet, just a little pinch there. And then toss those around. And then because these are rather large and rather wet mushrooms, they don't have an enormous amount of flavor, so I'm also going to put in some fresh breadcrumbs and saute them. I could put in a tiny bit more butter there. That's not very much. And then even if you wanted, you could put in a little, I'll just put in a tiny bit of port or Madeira, mainly because of the season and so forth, flaming nicely. And a bit of parsley. And I should say those were ready to serve, and they're going to be perfectly delicious with that beef. I'm going to get to the beef now. I asked my butcher for a whole bottom round of beef, and that is from the leg, and it's a pot roasting or braising cut. In other words, it's tough, it needs moist cooking. And I could just pot roast it in the ordinary way, which is awfully good with wine and so forth. But I decided for a party it would be much more fun to do something unusual, so we're going to stuff it. And then when you slice it, you slice right through and you get the meat and the stuffing and some wonderful flavor. And the reason I wanted the bottom round is it has no muscle separation, so it stuffs and slices very nicely. Here it is. It's got all the fat on it, but the fat has been taken off so that there's your naked meat, and I want to save the fat so that when it braises, it will have an automatic basting. You see, that's a beautiful, great big piece now. And for stuffing, I have slit it from this top part almost down to the bottom to make a pocket in. And then for the stuffing, I'm going to take out quite a bit of this meat and I'm going to grind it up. That's kind of picky work. I want about half an inch of meat, or I should say, no, about an inch almost of meat left on the outside, and all of this I'm taking off, and that will be ground up for hamburger. Now there I've got about 2 cups of meat there, and look at the pocket I have here. There's about an inch of meat all around, and then when the stuffing goes in, that'll just turn around and be sewn together. Now I'm going to turn this beef into hamburger in my trusty electric mixer. I mean, my electric meat grinder. There, beautiful hamburger, and I'm going to now flavor it up. There's some sauteed onions. I'm going to put in about half a cup. This is, as often, playing it by the seat of your pants. A little cheese. That's some grated Swiss cheese. That gives a very nice flavor to it. So it'll hold together. I want about a cup of fresh breadcrumbs. It has a little crust. It doesn't make any difference. 2 eggs. This is, again, 2 eggs beaten up. That's, again, in the interest of holding it together. Pepper. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 grinds of pepper. And I have a little thyme in here. That's going to be about 3/4 of a teaspoon of thyme. Salt, that should be about a teaspoon of salt that goes in there. That should be exactly a teaspoon. And now to fatten it up, that's some pork breakfast sausage. And that all has to get nicely mixed up. Since this will be a cooked meat stuffing, you want to saute a little bit of it and taste it very carefully for seasoning. That's also essential because you have raw pork, and raw pork is dangerous to taste raw. So just taste it very carefully. That needs a little more salt. There, that's ready to go into the meat. Just stick it right in. Sometimes you make a little too much stuffing. For instance, I've sometimes put mushrooms in, but as long as we're having chanterelles, I don't need any mushrooms in the stuffing. And sometimes you have a little left over, you can just use that as hamburger. Now it's in the meat. And now, you could skewer it, but I think I prefer the big trussing needle and white butcher's string. So I think it's so much easier to do. I'm going to press that up so it gets all around in. And you want to be sure that you don't have too much stuffing because it'll just dribble out. There, nicely trussed and on an oiled broiler pan to prevent it from sticking. Now I'm oiling the top to prevent it from cracking and also to seal in the juices. And then in it goes to a preheated broiler. And this is going to brown the top nicely. You want to keep near enough of it so you can keep looking at it every 2 or 3 minutes, but I'm going to still have time to prepare the vegetables for my braising liquid. Now I have in here 1 cup each of carrots and onions that I've cooked until they're very lightly brown in a good cooking oil, and I'm now adding 1/2 cup of flour, stirring that in nicely. And the reason for the flour is so that it will cook with the braising juices and thickening them. But I also have to cook the flour and brown it so that will give the sauce a rich brown color. That'll take 4, 5, 6 minutes of careful stirring and watching. There, no, that's brown. It looks terrible, but that's the way it's supposed to look. Let it cool off a little bit, and then pour in some red wine. I'm going to use a whole bottle here. Pour it in rather slowly. Stir it around so you want everything to blend. I'm going to put in about 1/2 a bottle there. And then I'm going to pour that right in over the meat and around it. And then put in the rest of the wine. A whole bottle seems like an awful lot, but this is 8 pounds of meat. And that all is going to cook about 2.5 hours. And now we have more flavoring. We have about 3 cups of ripe red tomatoes chopped. And out of season, use a little bit of canned tomato. There's a herb bouquet, the standard model. 4 whole unpeeled cloves of garlic. We need a little more liquid. We want it to come about halfway up. I'm going to put on the heat already so we can get it up to the simmer. And we want the liquid to come 1/3 to 1/2 way up, and that's beef bouillon or homemade beef stock, which would be even better if you had it. We'll just let that come up to the simmer. That's simmering nicely as it should, and now, remember that fat that we took off the roast? Put that back on, just drape it over, and that acts as an automatic baster. Then on goes the cover, and it goes into a preheated 325 oven. And that should bake for about 2.5 hours until it's tender, but during that time, turn it 3 times, because that will even out the cooking. And now for the dessert. This is going to be a trifle, an English dessert, sometimes called a tipsy pudding. And it starts out, I've got a 10-cup bowl here, and this is raspberry jam that's sieved to remove all the little seeds. There's a little layer of that in the bowl. And then we have yellow pound cake, just store-bought pound cake, which has been cut into wedges, and there's raspberry jam in the middle, and then you just fit the wedges into the bowl. And now, perhaps this is why it is called tipsy cake, I don't know. But we have 1 whole cup of best Spanish sherry, and that goes over the cake. And then we have 1/3 cup of best Spanish brandy, and that all goes over the cake. And then you let it sit and think about itself while you make a perfectly delicious custard sauce. I've got 9 egg yolks in there, and now I'm going to beat in 3/4 cup of sugar. And you have to beat that in rather slowly. It up so it's a bit thick. And now I have 2 1/4 cups of hot milk, and that goes in very slowly. The reason it goes in slowly is that you don't want to shock the egg yolks and scramble them. And then after that goes in, we're going to cook it very, very slowly until it thickens, never letting it come to the simmer. And now change to a wooden spoon, and then stir that very slowly. It'll take about 5 minutes. Now you can tell when that's done when you dip your spoon in it and it just lays on the spoon like that, and then take your impeccably clean finger and do that, and your finger mark stays. So that's done. Immediately take it off your heat, and to fatten it up a bit, we'll put in 1/3 cup of heavy cream, and also for flavor, exactly 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. And then let that cool to tepid before you add it to your trifle. While the custard was cooling, I've been lining this mold with slices of kiwi fruit. You know, these little things that look like potatoes, and you think, well, why should I pay 39 cents for that? But when you cut it open, it's perfectly beautiful. And it has a lovely, kind of a very delicate taste. I have a few little extras from the other slices. I'll put them in the middle. And then the custard is going to go on overall. The custard is tepid now. There, now cover that and refrigerate it for several hours or overnight, and then it's ready to serve. Well, that's a lovely dessert, and we've certainly got a very nice main course, that braised beef and the chanterelle mushrooms. And then, for the first course, I have a surprise. Right, there's Chef Louis Evans Jr. from the Frontier Train. What you messing up my sink with there?
Sure, these some crawfish I brought from New Orleans. I'm trying to wash the dirt out of them.
Gosh, they're still alive. What are you going to make with them, Chef?
I'll show you in a minute. If you've never been to New Orleans before, let me tell you a little bit about crawfish. We're going to do a crawfish bisque. First, we're going to boil the crawfish in boiling water for about 5 minutes. And we're going to add about 3 lemons, bay leaf, salt, cayenne pepper. We'll cook this about 5 minutes. Now that the crawfish has turned pink, We're going to stuff the head, save the meat from the tail, and the liquid for the soup. Now I'm ready for my stuffing. We have a little celery, onion, bell peppers, crawfish. Now we're going to have the soaked bread. Bay leaf, a little salt, a little thyme, cayenne pepper, Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to mix this all up together. Mix real well. Then we're going to take 3 eggs and fold them in. We're going to mix this in real well. We're going to place this in a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes. And now we're ready to make our soup. Now we have shortening, which we're going to make a brown roux. We're just going to make this dark brown. Once this thing is brown real well, now I'm going to add garlic, bell peppers, and onion to this. This should slow your roux down a little bit so it doesn't burn. Then we're going to add tomato puree. The remaining of your crawfish. A little salt. Bay leaf, about 3. Cayenne pepper. Green pepper sauce. Thyme, whole thyme I'm using. Sweet basil. Now we'll mix this up real well. Now this is cooked enough. Now we'll add the stock from the crawfish. A little at a time. Let it cook for about 30 minutes. You remember those heads we saved earlier? Now we're going to stuff them with this dressing. Then we're going to bake these off in the oven, a 350-degree oven, for about 15 minutes. We'll get a little crawfish heads to stuff. There you are, Judy. A little bit something from New Orleans.
Stag's Leap Wine Cellars. Its wines came in first over some notable French wines at a historic Paris tasting in 1976. Some would say that single event put California wines on the map to stay. And the man responsible for that is Warren Winiarski. Warren, we're just so delighted that you're here today.
Thank you, Julia.
What have you brought us?
I have a number of wines, and I'll go through them in the course of the menu. For the blini, I've got a Napa Valley White Riesling. It has a slight sweetness to it, but balanced by a fairly good acid, and I think it'll do well. It doesn't have the grip that a dry wine would have for aperitif.
This will be a nice caviar blini wine.
I hope it'll work out.
Oh, good.
For the beef course, I've got Napa Valley Merlot from Stag's Leap Vineyards, the state bottled wine. It's a wine that is softer and more and a little less muscular than the Cabernet.
We're beginning to see more Merlot, it seems to me.
You're right. I think it's gaining in popularity.
Is it because it is a little lighter and softer?
Lighter and more mild, more moderate, more open and more agreeable wine.
That'll be a good beef wine.
I hope it'll work out. The crayfish course had me a little stumped for a while,
Well,
so
it did us too. We were wondering what you'd come up with.
We're trying to work it out. And I've got two wines for that, Julia. I've got a Napa Valley Gamay Beaujolais, which is a low acid, a moderate acid wine, but good fruit and nice flavor, very agreeable wine for a wide range of food.
Some people drink it with a bouillabaisse, I think.
Yes, they do.
Do you think we ought to try it out?
So that led to the ambiguity. I think maybe if we try it, we can make the decision and then
I'm always in favor of that.
See what works out best. It's a lovely color,
I love that. I love the Gamay Beaujolais. This is a particularly good one.
Nice and fruity, but maybe that fruit would have a problem with the bisque, and so we have the second one. This is actually the first wine we've made of this type, Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc, and I think it's more austere, so it would have the opposite effect of this.
Not as fruity.
Not
Well,
quite as fruity, but more austere and somewhat more acid. More tart, I should say.
More crayfish. Biscuit,
That it might have the tendency to counteract some of the richness.
I think you're right, Warren. I think I like that better with it. It's a little, I think this
More
one's a little too
amenable, don't you
fruity.
think?
Warren, thank you. I'm looking forward to tasting every one of these wines.
Thank you, Julia.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have the great pleasure of announcing that dinner is served. You're on the other side of this one over there. And Anna, you're right now. There you are, right there. The excellent Chevandier was it? Look. And this has the bodies of little crawfish. 2 or 3 years ago they were. Oh, because these keep running around from this. Well, they said we always no more else because we don't have another set. Well, this is the Merlot, which I've been waiting to do again. Feel it. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at our dessert. This is an English trifle or tipsy pudding. Hi, this has been one of our greater evenings. I hope you've had a good time, as we certainly have. Come join us again the next time. This is Julia Child. Bon appetit.